Hello everybody, welcome to this new series I'm starting where I discuss unscripted history. And so today in this episode we're going to be discussing the Aragonese conquest of Sardinia and kind of just the ultimate concluding. So the time span we're looking at here is 1297 to 1420 on the Isle of Sardinia. So our story starts off with Boniface VIII, Pope Boniface VIII, Boniface, however you say his name, granting the land of Sardinia unto James II, King of Aragon and all that. So he ultimately ends up giving this land as a fiefdom, and he's like, okay, if you want to go and try and conquer it someday, then I'll be fully willing to do so, and I'll allow you to go along. Now, then our next big event is in 1323, when James II and Hugh II of Sardinia, ultimately, he's not Hugh II of Sardinia, the Hugh II of Arborea, ultimately end up creating a alliance together, and they start to attack the Republic of Genoa, and specifically the land surrounding Pisa. Pisa, Italy, obviously. And they are attacking all of this, and ultimately stuff seems to be going well together. Then in 1347, the Aragonese end up sending an attack toward the House of Doria, which is on the which is within the land of Sardinia. It's kind of to the north. And we see then as they start attacking these people. Now, after this, we see as tension between the Aragonese and the Arboreans begin to develop. And here in 1353, we see as Marianus IV of Arborea ultimately ends up going against the Aragonese and starts to conquer the entire land of Sardinia. And during this time, we see as they ultimately end up breaking down everything, wiping Aragonese rule essentially off the Isle of Sardinia until there's only 2 cities remaining of Aragonian control, or Aragonese control. And so, after this, we then get the 1368 point in which, like I said, almost everything has been conquered, and then when the 1368 is where they specifically have almost everything conquered, then in 1388, a treaty, a kind of a peace agreement is signed to where the previous lands which the Aragonese had held as are kind of redeemed to them. And so this continues, and we see as there is still some tension between them, but ultimately this is progressing to the point in which now the king of Aragon is Alfonso V, and he ultimately ends up agreeing to a deal with the now king of the Arboreans, which is William III of Narbonne. And he ends up agreeing to the deal where he's like, okay, I'll give you 100,000 florins if you will give me the land of Sardinia and all of that. So ultimately, he ends up giving over this land. Now, they have not fully conquered the land of Sardinia yet. With this, we see that one city is left kind of secluded. And this city is the city of Castel Serrato. And this city was secluded because it was not actually owned by the Arboreans nor the Aragonese. It was owned by the Doria who had previously been fought against in 1347 by James II. I believe that was Peter IV at that time. Yeah, it was Peter IV of Aragon, obviously. And so, see this play out. And ultimately, in 1448, these Aragonese are actually able to take this Castel Serrato from the Dorians, and ultimately unify the Isle of Sardinia. So that's kind of just like the early portions of the, I guess, nation, not really nation, but the kingdom of Sardinia. Because prior to this, we did see, Sardinia has had consistent occupation since 238 BC, when it was occupied by the Romans, and I mean, it was occupied prior to that as well, but I guess kind of centralized, governed, like almost unified, I guess, governance. And so that it's kind of had a story since then. We got to see that in the previous eras before it was actually conquered by the Aragonese and given as a fiefdom to James II. But it was ruled by a system of judges. The Judicate of Arborea is actually what the name of Arborea truly was, because the Arborean leaders were known as judges. Hugh II of Arborea was a judge. William III of Narbonne was a judge. And Marianus IV was a judge. So they ruled under a system of judges, and we see that it wasn't really a kingdom until it really became under the control of the Spanish. Now, once it was under the control of the Spanish, we see as it slowly began to deteriorate because the Spanish kind of started to neglect Sardinia. So they started to focus more on their endeavors in the New World and other more lucrative areas. Because Sardinia is a small little island, not of much strategic significance when you look at the bigger picture, because it's not connected to anything. It's not on mainland Europe, and it can't act as kind of like a buffer really, because it's just in the middle of the ocean, or of the sea, the Mediterranean Sea. And so that's kind of just the general gist of it. Now, once we do end up passing this point, nothing really major happens. We do see this as there's attacks from the Barbary pirates after this 1420 acquisition and 1448 complete conquest of Sardinia. We like to see as Barbary pirates and North African pirates start to attack the Isle of Sardinia because of Ottoman conquest and all of that, and the Ottomans obviously being jaded about their, I guess, ultimate booting out of the Iberian Peninsula with the Reconquista and all of that. So that's kind of the general, I guess, medieval history of the Isle of Sardinia. Yes, it didn't cover the complete, I guess, complete history of the Isle of Sardinia during the medieval times. However, that's kind of like the major stuff that happened, and when it started to become seen more as a kingdom rather than just as a coalition, not really coalition, but a array of judicates and all that. So yeah, that's all there really is for that. And now, probably in the next video, I will discuss the era of, it's mid to early 1700s to 1853 when the Great Fusion happened, and the Isle of Sardinia was combined with the, I guess, kind of general area of Piedmont, and it became seen as, it was still considered the Kingdom of Sardinia, but it wasn't Sardinia in its lonesome. So I'll probably discuss that in the next video. Yeah, that is part one of the, I guess, kind of, I could say, Spanish control within Sardinia. So yeah, that's kind of just a new little type of video I was wanting to do, because I wanted to read up on it, because I was watching a Knowledge Idiot video where I saw this country called Piedmont. I was like, I've never heard of the Kingdom of Piedmont. Well, looked into it. It's in fact not called the Kingdom of Piedmont. It's called the Kingdom of Sardinia, and it ultimately ended up leading into the Italian kingdom, which we eventually see in, I believe it's 1871. So, no, 1871 was Germany. 1870 was the official unification, ratification of the Kingdom of Italy. So, yeah, that's all there really is for that, and thank you very much for watching.